That's right.
I don't want to say it. It's got to be a there must be a generic term out there somewhere.
I'm just going to test the stream here, so I'm going mute. Go ahead and start up, Ross.
Yeah.
You got some more people.
Today on the rabbit hole, we are welcoming everybody that's joining and those who are watching us on the stream. We are going to start the conversation with what we've been talking about for the last year and such, and talking about whether it be the law of attraction, specifically talking about our actual internal vibration, which the two go hand in hand. I think it's worth something that we really kind of start to put some real conversation behind this, because I mean, we're coming up on our year anniversary, and next year's lineup is going to be very different. We're going to delve deeper and deeper into taking and showing people more and more detail as far as what their vibration really can do. Gary and I were just talking about a little mini video that I had seen earlier, and they were talking about vibration in itself, using vibration as a means of moving things. So, and this has been a theory that's been going on for a long time, but it's getting more and more attention, as to where when we look at the big ancient monolith buildings and statues and such, where they're saying, you know, the idea of moving these giant stones with a bunch of like logs underneath them, and they were, you know, you had thousands of people pushing them. They're like, yeah, if everything was perfect, yes, that would work, but in essence, it really isn't feasible. But something that was feasible is using vibration, using sound to literally bring these things up and move them. And one of the displays that they, or one of the ideas that they had, they were looking at insects. And we've all heard the fact that, you know, bees aerodynamically should not be able to fly. Dragonflies should not be able to fly. But if you look at microscopically at their wings are designed to give off a vibration that levitates them. And it's absolutely fascinating. And there was a scientist, and I'm going to do some more research on this, so it will be coming up again, who took, as cruel as this sounds, he took insects' wings and he made this platform. And the platform literally elevated. And I'm like, well, okay, now you got my attention. And he would take just an insect's wing, and I'm hoping that he didn't actually kill the insect to do this. And he would move it and put it above something. I don't know exactly what it was. That's where I need to do more looking into it. But and the wing just floated on top because of the structure of the wing. What we thought when we're looking at the wings of some of these insects, what we thought ourselves were like little tiny bones that are going through these wings, or little tiny blood vessels of some sort going through these wings, are not. They're tubes, like flutes. And they have these little specially shaped cones that point down. And when you take that idea and you put it with the idea that a lot of these ancient civilizations had these cones everywhere, and you see images that have been painted or chiseled into the rock of the Gary, what do you call it? The priest? I guess it would be the priests.
Yeah.
And they're holding like what look like ice cream cones. and they're doing this and they're doing this. And this is the theory that they have somehow figured out how to channel vibration through these cones. So they're kind of like the old fashioned phonograph cone that is, intensifying this this vibration. So we're looking at this and we're like, well, this is, if you start kind of connecting some of the dots there, I think that there's something there. I really do. And then we put that with the vibration that we all give off anyhow. And oh, this was something that they had also said, is that they'd also get these groups of people and then they would either sing or hum towards that that individual with the cones, and he would basically take their energy and magnify it to actually start to maneuver and manipulate matter. I think it's just fascinating. I think there's an incredible rabbit hole there when we're understanding that there's been and there is so much more to this existence that we have right now. And was some of this just lost in time? Was it kind of covered up and left only for the people who deserved it by whatever standards there are? That's another rabbit hole. But nevertheless, though, there are some theories that keep on repeating themselves in different variations as they discover more and more information and uncover different finds. And then you take the the overall truth of how we know that our human body and the vibration that we give off, that's been proven by heart math, that's been proven by so much modern science, that this has an effect on our well-being. This has an effect on our reality as a whole. There's just, and you can use this to make your minute shifts in your reality to steer you into a more refined or a more wanted reality. But there's so many people that you can talk to somebody who is just down in the dumps and it's just been like that for their whole life. And you start talking to them about this, they go, what are you on something? But once they kind of start to understand, then all of a sudden they start to see that shift. Gary, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think, the whole, a lot of these things I think that are, coming out now, or being scientifically proven now, they stem from a lot of the alternative therapies and things like that, that oh, that's just woo-woo stuff, and then when it gets to science and science proves it, it's like, oh, well, that's the way it works. Well, okay, so
it's kind of like, I knew that.
It seems to be that way, right? I had a experience in 2001 or 2002, beginning of 2002, when I just come back from India and Thailand, and I was doing a course out in Ontario, just outside Toronto, and at the place that we were doing, it was just this nice little retreat out in nature there, and the guy had this really cool setup where he had this specific room where he had it was I can't remember it was like a Merkaba. So he had the tetrahedron shape, like made out of metal, and right in the center of it he had a bed, and then all around the room he had all these different, and he had speakers, and it was sound therapy. So what he would do is he'd put people in there and he'd play different sounds, and you'd feel your body go through these different shifts and adjustments. Emotions would come up, things that you'd feel your body. It was so cool. So cool. And you know, you didn't need science to say something was going on. That was something going on. It was you know, I didn't need a you know, someone in a lab doing something to measure. There were shifts that were occurring. You know, you could feel the body kind of release certain things at certain times, contract at certain times, just from the sound, and that's all it was. There was some geometric components to it, I think, you know, playing with some sacred geometry as well, that I believe contributed to that. But it was really cool, and you know, it really opened up my eyes to say, yeah, wow, there's you know, there's this invisible element that we, because we don't see it and we don't actively play with it, or at least we're not conscious when we play with it, that has a huge influence on so many things that we have no grasp of yet. I mean, what we do understand, I think, is just like a very skimmed surface of it.
Yeah.
Right. The impact,
Well,
the power of it. And
there's a room, a large room. I think it's at the Johnson Space Center. And this room is the the most soundproof room on the planet. And you can walk into this room and you'll instantly feel like you're falling until your body adjusts to it.
Interesting.
And they say that you can, I think the maximum amount of time that you can stay in this room is less than an hour. Because people who have had a, like a almost like a mental break, because they're disconnected from sound. They're disconnected from vibration. They're disconnected from sound. And it is what it is. And there's a reason for this room. It has something to do with testing equipment that's going to go up into space, where they're saying there is no sound or vibration. We're not really sure about that. But regardless, though, it says something. It says something very, very important. Can anybody here imagine going, let's say, 7 days without listening to any music of any sort? I listen to music daily, some kind of music. I have a very eclectic taste in music. It just depends on my mood. I mean, I like classical, I like jazz, I like rock, I like new age. I mean, I like virtually all types of music. Just kind of depends on what I'm in the mood for. But I always, at some point in the day, have music going, and it's for my own benefits. It's not a need to, you know, hear the lyrics per se, but it is that need to feel that vibration. Again, it's vibration, it's vibration, it's vibration. If we go into quantum physics, you know, the most sound, pardon the pun, theory right now is string theory. And those of you who may or may not understand string theory, is the theory behind string theory is that everything is made of little tiny strings, and they're all lined up, and they all vibrate. And if they change the when they're looking at these through the micron microscope, you know, they will change the vibration of the exterior coming into it, and those strings change, they morph. And so again, science trying to prove what, the New Agers or the woo-woo people have known, felt, studied almost, well, we're trying to prove that from ancient civilizations. Why all that knowledge was lost or buried is still a mystery, but it's everything is sound and what the sound does. What does it do? How does a speaker work?
Well, and even if you think about it, I mean, sound is described as wave and vibration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if
Yeah,
you're, we're looking at particles, is it a wave or is it a vibration or is it it's like, it's what creates the universe, right? It's what creates what we call reality, and whether that is total reality is another story. But
right.
because then we go into the quantum theory of multiple worlds theory, and who knows what's in another dimension. It could be something completely different, right?
Well, but what's the theory on dimensions? Is that they're just one vibration tone off of ours.
But I hear you, but that's from our perspective,
Correct. Yes, I understand
right?
that. No, I get
There it
that's
may be
my
something different
perspective.
from that
Yeah,
end, right? Yeah,
right,
we don't know, right? We can only perceive or assume from our understanding of it, right?
right.
And our limited understanding of it is as much as we think we know as human beings.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, it's and when it comes to how this is relevant for life, and we look at, okay, well, many of us have been exposed to The Secret, the movie, or Law of Attraction, or Down the Rabbit Hole. Sorry, not what's the other one? What the Bleep Do We
What the
Know?
bleep?
And the Matrix and all those things, and we hear the philosophy or idea that you could just put your thought out there, and stuff will happen for you, and stuff like that, and again, there's some of that's true, but there's more to it, right? There's
A lot
more
more.
elements to it that can that make that a complete theory, right? Or complete experience. And when we look at the emotion, right? Energy, motion that we have in our bodies, and that we feel on a day-to-day basis, we come out of the womb feeling emotions, right? It's
We felt it
we
before we
feel
came out of the
emotions.
womb.
Yeah.
Say it again.
We felt it before we came out of the womb.
Yeah. We came out expressing it more from the womb, right? And but it's felt right from the mother down to the baby, and the fetus as it grows. And the importance of that, I think, has been overlooked, again, because it's one of those intangible, invisible things, right? How do you put that in a bucket and measure it? And and how do you know when you've got enough to create a result that you want to create? Or what's the right mixture? It's like, if I want to cook rice, I know there's 2 of this, 1 of that, put it in a pot, and a certain amount of time, and something happen. But how do you do that with
Oh,
emotions?
is that sticky rice or is that brown rice?
Yeah, it depends,
Wild
right? Yeah,
rice?
it totally
Uh,
depends. Absolutely. And
you know,
so when we think about creating reality and hacking the matrix, what we do, what Ross and I do, is we look at, okay, what are the ingredients and how do you put them together in certain ways, so that they maximize the potential of creating a shift and changing the reality that people have. And that's kind of what we love doing. That's kind of why we have these conversations, so we start to think more, okay, now how do we, if we were going to do a process around transformation of either life or personal experience, how would we add in vibration? How do we take that to the next level, and how do we deliver that in a way that's digestible for the people that are listening? And it's really, it's fun. And I think that knowing that we have all these different tools that are already there, and it's I was hearing the other day on something, and it was a decent speaker. He had, a decent following, and, had good info, but just in the languaging of, hey, we got to learn to, people got to learn to manifest this and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's not accurate. It's not that we need to learn to do these things. And what we need to do is
Because we are.
we need to remember how we're doing it. That's what it's. We don't need to learn it. We're doing it on a moment-to-moment basis, and so I almost felt like going. It was a pre-recorded video, obviously, but I felt like going, "Come on, buddy, wake up! No, tell people the correct thing." It's because thinking that we don't have the ability sets us already back to like the 60s. We're not in that framework anymore. We already understand that we do have the capacity and the ability to shift, alter our universe and our reality, right? And it's a more of coming. And so what Ross and I are doing is bringing things, so you start to if you do this hack, you go, oh wow, okay, yeah, and you start to tap into that part of you, that vibration of your core that already knows it. And the more you do that, the more that starts to become your existence, and I was at a get together with some friends last night, and one of the things that came up was how, and it related to our Thursday talk, which is tolerance, right? And they were talking about how they were feeling the state of the planet, and how it's and we say this in the personal growth circle quite often, that hey, it's time to step up and make some, but really right now I think it's more true than ever that we need to step up and stand in our truth and be the beacon of light for people that are scared to stand in their truth.
Well, a good example is look at all the children that look at all of the autopilot adults. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so here are all these adults who have switched off and, just live a day-to-day life of everything. And these kids are being born and they're like, what happened to you?
Yeah.
Like what's, where is your vibe? Where is your, like, where is your sense of direction? Like, so here are all these kids, and we're telling kids, like, well, you shouldn't be like that. But meanwhile, there's people like us where we're encouraging, getting them to really embrace, whereas like our parents were like, shh, like children are to be seen and not heard, sort of stuff, right? So so now the generation, it's getting to be more open, and like they're really learning and looking into like why. And I love that.
Yeah, and I think that there's more and more of that happening. And at the same time, there's the other side of it too, because in the same conversation, one of the guys was saying that he was at a family gathering the day before, and there was some, we call them kids, but they're, 25, 30-year-old kids, right? And he was kind of talking with them and seeing how they were in a state of almost like not caring, because they don't see the light. They don't see that, well, what's the sense? We're going to die and the earth is not going to be around it. And so they don't have that, like, hey, let's do something. They're like, give it up.
Yeah.
At 30.
Media.
Well, back in the 80s, I'm dating myself, but there was a movie that came out called The Day After.
Well, you were probably close to 50 at that time, right, Ross? You were like,
I was still in diapers, but I was.
You and me both.
I was very in touch with my world. But there was a movie that came out that was called The Day After.
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah, Gary, if you heard that or not, but this
Yeah.
the day after was the day after a nuclear war.
Yeah.
And it was well done. It was a very well done movie, especially because it was a TV movie too. And a lot of people watched this. And but a very profound effect happened with, as Gary was saying, a lot of the kids. They're just like, this is the world that you're creating for us. Then why bother?
Yeah.
And it was like a gut punch to a lot of these kids that watch this. They're just like, then why
Kick
bother?
in the
Why,
gut. Yeah.
you know, and they're just like, why? I mean, you're just going to blow it up anyhow. You foolish, foolish adults.
Yeah,
And
but then you have those ones where they're like, okay, how can we
They
make it
are.
so it
Yeah.
doesn't happen?
they're,
You
and
know, so
they're,
you've got
and,
two sides.
exactly. But the lesson here is that how sensitive, you know, the younger generations are to the messaging that we as adults are sending out to them and such. Yes, there are many, many who said, well, if that's what's in mind, then it's time for change. I mean, that's what the 60s were all about. And
But
I
it also,
was a very, very small child in the 60s.
Sure,
But that's what
Ross, tell yourself
but
that.
that's what but that, you know, but that was in a huge that was a huge time that there was a lot of transition and a lot of change that was done there, because that's when the younger generation was saying, you guys have just messed up this world. It's time for us to take charge again. And it wasn't done through violence, because again, that generation understood that violence begets violence. But it was through protesting, it was through voicing their opinion, it was through what is it, you know, make love not war, that type of thinking. And it had the most profound change for the future.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's something there that that the younger generation can make a huge difference.
And it doesn't need to be all of them, right? I mean, it's, you know, it's
No.
never needed to be all of them. It needs to
No.
be, I mean, you think of the pivotal shifts that's happened on the planet. Many times it's come down to one individual, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa. You've got, I mean, it's been these
Gandhi.
individuals, Nelson Mandela. I mean, there's these individuals that have stood so strong in the light and for the right, you know, what's right for the planet and what's right for the beings on the planet, and has, regardless of whatever is going around them, has been self-serving in that way. And we need to be more of that. And you know, and
exactly. But that goes to what we talked about last week or the week before, is that we as a species seem to have this thing of finding the answer out there. Somebody else will do that. Somebody else is going to do it. Somebody else will come up with that idea, instead of being that one individual just to change this child.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and you and I have talked, we had a kind of long conversation on a rabbit hole, I believe, where that's what we're all about is, you know, yeah, we want to try and reach out and touch as many people as we possibly can, but we're going after the individual.
Yeah.
You know, one at a time, one mind at a time, one soul at a time, one, you know, everything is just like, just change you. You don't need to, you don't have, some people go, that's just too big of a project. You know, and I am not in any way downplaying, you know, these great leaders in any way whatsoever, because they inspired individuals. But that's really where that's where you get the lasting change, is going after the parents and saying, you have this little one right here. You have to change the direction. You have to,
but you also have to, that, you know, but then that goes into their patterning, there, you
Mhm.
know, like, so there's so much things, you know, when it comes to children, you know,
Yeah.
because like they're, you know, it all depends on, you know, like who's
It's like
supposed to
rolling
guide them.
dice. Yeah, I know.
Exactly. You
You
know,
know,
like
and
Every day
it,
is a dice roll. It's
you look
exactly.
you look at some of this information that's come out of these these generations that are growing up, hating particular races or cultures and things like that. And but if you look at their parents,
Yeah.
it's just
My mother
it's
was one of the residential school students.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I, you know, like talk about being, you know, taking your whole culture, your whole
So
everything.
Josephine, so some of
Yes.
these, because they're Americans, they may not know what's going on up here. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So what happened was
did I
a
just
long
get
time
gifts?
ago.
No, well, it's I think it's more local. I don't know that everybody understand what
Yeah,
it is that
it's a
residential schools
Canadian
are.
sort
So
of thing, like
Yeah.
where the Catholic Church were taking Native children away from their families and trying to culture them to be these good humans. And they felt that we were ignorant and that we needed to be cultured, and so they took Native children from their homes, and they were forced. Parents were actually killed if they did not give up their child. So a lot of parents were hiding their kids and stuff like that. And so my mom was one of those, but she did survive. And um, I'm one of those people that have to try and change that culture, change that, you know, like to say, you know what, yes, that is a terrible thing that happened,
yeah.
but look, a light is turned on because of it.
Oh yeah, a big one. Yeah, here in Canada, anyways. And for you guys don't know, so what happened was for
Is
many
this where
Genocide.
years,
they're finding bodies by the churches buried?
Yes.
hundreds of kids buried.
Yes.
Yeah,
Children were actually digging holes for these children
yeah.
So they
Hundreds.
were taking the children from the parents,
Mhm.
from resident reserves,
taking
yes,
them to the churches to be.
into these big buildings where they literally abused them sexually, mentally,
and
physically.
then,
Yeah.
Like
and then took away.
it was bad.
All under the
So,
guise of the Catholic Church, right?
Yes.
so it really wasn't the fact that we want to take them and make them better. We want to take them and make ourselves better, for whatever
Yes.
how you want to look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, so yeah, so it's,
I get
but
it.
and it's been an ongoing battle for it's what, 17 years, right?
Hmm.
In legal, and finally got through, and and they won the case, and now it's like now the Catholic Church coming out and apologizing, and da, 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 da. But you mentioned that, but you start to think, okay, and this may be a touchy subject, but you start to think about what's happening in New Zealand and Australia,
Mm.
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Families are being forced to take their kids and give them the vaccine. And whether you're pro or anti-vaccine is not the conversation here, but it's what they're doing, right? Families are being forced to have their kids vaccinated. They're being militaries coming in and taking kids and forcing them to have their, and some are being taken away from their parents to be forced, and some of the kids are dying from the vaccine,
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
right? And those are countries.
Are these Aboriginals?
No, these are people in the country that if you're not vaccinated, they'll come in and they'll take your kid and force them.
Yeah, I'm just meant, are there a majority of Aboriginals? Because I mean,
Well, yeah,
they're
I mean, you're talking
Majority
Australia,
is
and
yes.
I mean that's you definitely, yeah. I mean it's
I
they're
mean,
definitely going to be.
that's a culture that Western civilization is just absolutely
Absolutely.
devastated.
I mean, it totally demolished Hawaii and its whole culture, and now they're going after the Australia and New Zealand, right? So I mean,
I mean, and I'm not going to downplay the U.S. because the Native American culture here, it's just like, what have we done?
yeah,
What has our done?
right. And so it is definitely a thing to, so what we do is, and so you're exactly right, Josephine, the light that comes to it and is to say, hey, we shouldn't be making this shit happen again. And this is where, kind of stimulated a lot, Thursday's talk was, that we need to lower our tolerance for this crap.
Yes.
Instead of increase our tolerance, say, oh, well, it's for this. No, it's not about the vaccine. It's about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's next?
Yep.
Right? So it's, it's about bringing that light and getting the message out and being consistent and giving people tools, whether whether you're using them for yourselves or you use them and then take these tools and share it with someone else so that they have tools too. Right? And so that you become these different light pockets. And I've talked about it a lot on the streams. You become these light pockets around the world that are creating this light bulb experience that then ripples out. And then we can have more of a collective consciousness shift and step out of this junk and step into something new or something better.
The idea is to create a change within ourselves, within the individual, so that another person will look and notice it and say, what are you doing? How are you, what has changed in you? I want that. Show me.
Mm-hmm.
Teach me. Or where are you getting the information? Well, however you want to do it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it comes down to, our buddy Gandhi, be the change.
Yeah.
If I can share something.
Yeah.
You see, here we are talking about different type of changes, different type of transformation.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about self-transformation, self-change, self-awareness. And then we're talking about being part of a nation and being part of the world. What can you change? Being part of the nation, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, depending on the leaders and what they put as the imposition.
Yeah.
Us now in Malaysia, we want a lot of change, but the old guards are still, putting the next one and the next one in the prime minister, and this is what we want. So how do you create the change that is beyond your, when they want to go on the street for protest like today, the soldiers, the policemen are all over. So this is things that so there's different kind of transformation, and the easiest transformation is what just now Ross said, is on ourselves.
Yeah.
We realize it and we know it. And you were talking about the vibrations. The vibrations will come. It's not just mentally. You have to feel it. You have to be there. If it is just mental, can always shift you away. So you got to have a very deep feeling for whatever the transformation that's going to happen within you, that you can go beyond, that you can go beyond. And you can start changing yourself first and then create this group. But then when you are transforming and changing, you must also do things beyond yourself, to be more than yourself, to do something that could create a ripple. But how many of us are there? Okay, we can start with ourselves first, but we need more people to do something to create the ripple. Yeah, like for example, you take about climatic change. Everybody is talking about it, but what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
What are the steps that we can do within our own home, depending on whatever business? I'm taking steps now, really. Climatic change, plant trees, going to the school and all that, raising funds and so we have to actually do something about it. Once we transform and we know, we have to step out, step out, and step up to do it. Because talking about it and being there and feeling it, you can just die one day and it's gone. So we need
this goes off of what Gary said earlier, though, is that people only have a piece of the formula. When he was talking about the secret, he goes, well, it's that was fluffy and made you feel good, but and so
it woke up, and let's give it credit. It did wake up a lot of people, though. looking at that.
It did. Yeah, right. And we spoke about this before, but people only have half the piece, or you have the other people who are trying to, kind of jump on that bandwagon that they themselves don't have all of that information to make that work. But even more though, when you're talking about the being the change, and again, when we look at the idea that, okay, well, we all have, I love the fact that we're all from different countries here. This is so nice because it says that it says something very powerful, that we're all from different countries and yet still all experiencing the same challenges. And when we talk about those challenges coming from the top down, they're coming from leaders, etc., then we have to look at, not in all kids situations, I know it is different from such, but like in my situation, I'll just use the United States for an example. When I look at our situation, it's like, well, we as a society in this country put those leaders there. So what are our individual standards? This is where, and our system, our political system is incredibly convoluted. It's incredibly manipulative and such, and I understand that. But again, we have to keep going and going down that rabbit hole, digging down to find that root cause. What is that root cause? That root cause is that people that we are saying, I trust you to do this, aren't doing it. And then they manipulate the rules and the laws and all that kind of stuff so that they can do it. And that's the other rabbit hole. But at the same time, though, our standards as an individual, the people that are just on this call, our standards, okay, have to, I'm not going to say they have to be raised, but they do have to be rippled out. They do have to be vibrated out. So where people are saying, what, how are you remaining so calm? It's because I am changing my reality.
Correct.
Okay?
Yes.
I'm going to ripple out my reality. I'm going to vibrate out my reality so that it affects yours, and so it affects theirs, and so that it becomes a virus.
Isn't that called drama?
I understand. Yeah.
So that we understand that everybody understands, though, everybody around you in your environment understands that you are not the cause, but you can be the change. You can be the cure. You can say, I am not going to settle. And this is where Gary was talking about tolerance.
Yeah, correct.
That falls into the realm of tolerance. I'm not going to tolerate any longer, this substandard, standard leaders that are coming into play that are really freaking messing things up.
Yes, Ross, if I may interrupt, you see, the root cause, as you're saying, what is the root cause? The root cause is, by and large, in almost every country in the world, is to do with power, corruption, and self-interest. Greed. It's
those are not the causes. Those are not the causes. Those are the byproducts.
That's why they are on top. They're not doing the thing, and they need to divide and rule for whatever. And then here is where Gary is talking about the tolerance. So long as we have enough to eat, so long as we have business to do, so long as we have enough. So when there's enough, there's no French like the French Revolution. It's when they don't have enough. It's there to fight. What is there to lose? I will fight. I will go to the streets. Yes. So in every country we look at historically, they go out into the streets when there's not enough to eat. Even like in Malaysia, everybody, the minority who are mainly the Chinese, well, we have business, we have everything. We're not happy with the government, which is unfair. But what are you doing about it? How much can you do about it? It's not as simple, But as you say, Ross, I do agree with you. The individual need to know. The individual need to cause that ripple. The individual, whatever we can do within ourselves, that little ripple, that little baby steps is very important to make that slight change. Like in your case, is to influence, is to get more people to be aware, and then to come out of the shell and don't say that, oh, what to do? It depends on the top people. If they don't do, why should I do? You know, we have to take something to do something, because like, for example, climate change, most people will say, what can I do? Let the top people handle. Of course we can do, every one of us can do. Because it has to be from the top to the bottom. Of course, the top will do maybe a bigger project, like for example, using the power to air and to water and to wind in a bigger way and making it lower price, so that we can look into alternative power, and then what we consume is what we become. So eating less meat and eating less of the thing that give out a lot of methane gas. Of course, they can do a lot of things, but we on the ground should push forward that's what we want to. And what you say, Ross and Gary, to create these people, it's for all of us then, through baby steps, to create the ripple within our own little community and then spread out. This is within us that we can do. But politically, it's not so simple because we are not in the political side.
Well, no, but we don't know where our ripple will take us.
We can elect and create a change in government if everybody, don't manipulate with the votes and so forth. And
well, but here's the thing, though, Gina, we don't know where our own ripple will end up, right? So, for example, right? So, I became vegetarian 30 years ago, right? 30 years ago, being a vegetarian wasn't a common thing. Okay, I was definitely, 1 in 100 in a room, right?
Correct.
It wasn't very many people. But I'd done my homework, I did my research, and I was convinced for myself, not for others. I was convinced for myself why it was the best choice for me, right? And I stuck to that regardless of what was around me. And I was 21, 22, 23 years old, right? So at that time, there was a lot of peer influence, right? I'd go out with party, or I'd go to a restaurant with friends, but even my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she still ate meat, right? And so when we'd go to a restaurant, there was all this, well, why did you have here's a wing, or here's try this. I'm like, but I don't eat that. And, and when I go to restaurants, so here's the side story. I'd go to restaurants, and I lived in Edmonton, Alberta, which is meat, like heavy country, right? And so to be a vegetarian there was like, it was not easy path. So I don't know what I was thinking. So I'd go to a restaurant, and
that's why we got a black house.
Absolutely nothing on the menu was vegetarian, right? So what I would order, I would order something with the meat dish on it, and say, and then at the end I'd say, but don't put the meat on the plate. So I'd have rice and vegetables, and they'd be like, what?
Yeah, Gary, you know what? In school, when we are taught, I was taught that way as well, that to have a balanced diet, the hierarchy.
Oh yeah, meat, sure. We have that here too.
And this and that. So we follow religiously that is the best. And if being a mother, we have to make sure we provide the balance. That's what we are taught. That's what we are taught. And it's a lot of things are just not quite right. Yeah, not quite right now.
My point is though, that what I would, because I was so solid in my resolve of why I did it, and had my back, and people would say, why are you vegetarian? Did it? And it was almost like they wanted me to convince them. I'm like, I don't need to convince you. I've convinced myself. That's all that I care about, right? I don't need to convince you why vegetarianism is good for me, and so in doing that and being from that mind frame, I did, I'll frame that. I did go through a small window of time where I felt like I had to tell everybody about being vegetarian. So I did go through that, and I quickly realized, you know what, it's not worth the effort. And then
you have a very strong character to do it.
Oh,
30
totally. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
30 years
And,
ago, I don't know anything about vegetarian.
Okay, so I want
Yeah.
to, so something that Jean said kind of struck a chord because it brings us back around to the beginning of this conversation. So when we are looking at wanting to make the change in our environment, in our society, in our politics, in our country, and which ultimately ends up with the world and such, we feel powerless. We look at this and say, this is so big. And this is where Gary and I are saying, before you can change the whole big, before you can really affect that, we have to affect the little big. Okay. And the change in society was made big and complicated and forbearing on purpose. Okay, to make the worker bees feel powerless, which goes back to the my original comment earlier, is that why is the technology, the mental technology of using sound, using vibration, only left to the people up here and not everyone down here? Okay, again, because that's how we control the masses. You can't give the masses too much power, because then that dilutes your own power or simply takes it all away and such. So you see the pattern?
It's all
Yeah.
connected. It's all connected. Like you have to eat properly to be able to reach those higher vibrations. You
exactly.
gotta keep your mind good.
We all learn from history. Well, where is that history? It's gone.
Well, they don't want to share that.
Exactly. So you see attempts in modern day to rewrite history, or no, you don't need to know this. We want this history. We want the history to read like this.
Because again, yes,
exactly. So we see this cycle. Yeah. And we consistently see this cycle because it's freaking working.
Like
right?
Prince and Michael Jackson, like they had a really big influence.
Yeah.
Did they, die of complications medically? Who knows? You know what I mean?
Who knows?
Like,
I know, I really admire Michael Jackson. I think he was really great, I mean, 10 years ago, he was already singing the song Save the Planet. And he knew about the climatic change then, So this year, I'm using his song as our theme, to do the Save the Planet, Save the Planet theme for my
black and white.
Yeah. Save the planet. And then we're doing a lot of things and planting trees to go to schools, and then to give seeds and everything, and then the kind of things to do. So he is fantastic. I mean, I really adore him. When I listened to him and realized that he knew so much, when then I knew so little, and he knew so much. Yeah,
he was totally tapped in, and Prince as well.
Yes.
And one of the
Maria's finally
awesome. I was wondering where you were.
I didn't know we just had to talk about musicians to get Maria.
Right.
I'm making note of that right now.
So Maria, do you like the Prince, right? Or Michael Jackson? Both?
Yes, I like Prince. I was in a concert. It's beautiful. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's amazing. I love him.
And the reason, which goes to our topic, the reason that musicians have such powerful influence and impact is because they play with vibration.
Exactly.
Yes,
they
play the right
frequency through the words they use. They transmit it through the emotion that they put into something. They transmit it to the instruments they put together in a certain way at a certain time. Which to me, when I listen to music, and I'm one of those people. I don't really listen to a lot of music. I listen to content, but not a lot of music. but when I do, I'm not listening to just the words. I'm listening to, why did they choose that instrument? Why did they, and like I'm listening to the deeper levels of it that put it together to make it sound the way it is, to make it catchy, to make me kind of do the little So that's to me is like, that's artistry beyond artistry, just to kind of come up with that and to put that together of all the possible combinations of sounds, and they put these ones together for this particular thing in this particular way for this particular time frame. Just blows my mind.
Well, now they're coming out with music with binary beats in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, like, so people are catching on that, like vibration is a very big key.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't even realize that. They're just like, oh, I just like music because it makes me feel good, which is fine and such. That's been centuries.
Yeah.
I mean, Bach, Chopin, all of these guys, I mean, they created beautiful, beautiful, beautiful music. And again, because I kind of have an eclectic taste in music, I go to a lot of different types of concerts, not a lot anymore, but I used to do it like a lot. And, you can go to a classical concert, at a concert house, and it's just like, and everybody's just like very mellow, very like, wow, they're just intense on listening to the music. Everyone's eyes are closed because they're just listening to the music. And then you can go to a jazz concert, and you can see that there's a different vibe, a different energy that's going on. And then you can go to, a new age type of concert. And again, similar to the classical, but still a little bit different. And then you go to a rock concert, and everybody is just like really just really just jamming and such. And then you step it up or over or under, and you go to like one of those really acid, hard, really hard rocks. The raves did not exist when I was younger. But you go to those, but what you see a metamorphosis. You see anger. So this is that duality. That's the other side of what vibration can do. You see people just like, they're banging their heads, and they're, and they just look angry. And you're more on guard than anything else. You're just like, I don't know what's going to happen. This is crazy. And the vibration that's coming off, I generally could not stay in that environment for very long.
Yeah. I got stuck in one of the mesh things. And this guy was like, he kept elbowing me kind of sideways. And then my niece she just jumped up and just punched this guy, and then she like pulled me out, and I was just like, what did you just do? I was just like, whoa.
It's just an environment, a vibration that is, for them, that's what they crave. That's the vibration that they crave. Someone like myself and my wife's like, this isn't working. It's not a matter of leaving and wanting to get a refund or anything like that. It's just like, because it's kind of like, I just want to see what it's like. But again, taking that on a different type of flip side, when we look at the people like what Gary was saying, you have Gandhi, and you have Martin Luther King, and you have some of these great thought leaders that have existed in history and are in existence today as well. And then you put them up against the people, Hitler, Stalin, Napoleon, these other people. It's all vibration.
It's all change and evolution.
Well, kind of, but we wonder how does somebody get to power like that and do the things they do for as long as they did, and nobody did this, and nobody could stop them and such. And it's because they had kind of the same type of secret. They're just like, hey, I know how to work. I know how to make this work, but I know how to make it work to take over the world
Yeah, like the
the way
Catholic
that I
Church.
want it to be, the way that I want it to be.
Mhm.
You know, where this race is gone and this race is gone and my race is the superior race, but they're all still using the same method.
Yeah.
They're using the exact same method that Gandhi did, but they have a different vision of where they're going to take that vibration. So what Gary was saying earlier is that, you know, this is, and I think I mentioned it a little bit too, is that it's like, well, we just, you know, we as a group of individuals, you know, we are constantly raising our vibration and spreading that vibration so that it counters the other. Gary, I try not to use the word good and evil per se, but you know, for the lack of a better term. And so
Less
it's
than
because
harmonious is what
good
I
and
like
evil
to
is
use.
relative to the individual. See, it's all relative to the individual, and it's relative to the matrix. Like, I'm just recognizing the vibration. That's all the matrix does. I'm just recognizing the right vibration, and you got some pretty powerful vibration coming on. So I'm going to reflect it, more of it back at you, because you're passionate about wanting to take over the world.
Mhm.
Okay. However you want to use it is fine, but they have that passion, such, and they're just, I mean, it's like going to a rock concert. You kind of want to be in a room with one of these people at one particular time. I've been in the room with people that are just kind of like, you know, I'm not comfortable here. I don't, you know, and we've all been around people like that. It's like, I'm just not comfortable here. But then you've been in, you know, we've all been in rooms with other, you know, powerful thought leaders, and like, yeah, this is cool, you know, yeah. But it's all the same. It's all the same vibration, just being used in different ways. Okay. And
Yeah.
they may or may not, you know, do they know more than the average individual simply about this method? Probably. You know, why didn't all these people, not all of them, but many of these people who suffered through these wars and these genocides, it's just like that, why didn't they know that they had the ability? Okay, they had the ability, or that they didn't know. They
Well, they
had the
had the
ability,
guns.
but they didn't know, but they didn't have the knowledge. They didn't know what they didn't know.
Mhm.
You know, I'm a big fan of Viktor Frankl. I'm not if everybody's familiar with him, but he survived through the concentration camps with his mind, simply with his mind.
Yeah.
And you know, people were like, how are you not devastated by all of this? He goes, it is here. He goes, but you know, they can do this to my body, but they won't take my mind.
That's
So,
what happened with my mom. She learned to astral travel. She
Nice.
was sick, so they stuck her in a wing all by herself,
yeah.
and she learned to astral travel so she could see what was going on, so she wasn't alone.
Awesome. That's pretty cool.
Mhm. It's very,
That's
very
great.
cool.
Yeah,
And do you do that method as well?
I do. Yes, I
Nice.
also do remote
Oh,
viewing.
wow,
I
look at the
do
Oh,
like, yeah,
awesome.
I do energy healing, like
Nice.
stuff.
the next generation and the next generation.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and that's what I'm teaching my children. Like right now, I have a dad that is completely, you know, closing off one of my children, and then I have another dad who is completely open to his abilities and stuff like that. So I've got these two fathers that, you know, that have these two different mindsets, and
Yeah.
it's you know, like being a woke person and having to, you know, like try and work both sides without, you know, like manipulating or causing any hurt.
Mhm.
But I it's weird because, you know, like here I am trying to be somebody that's, you know, raising light beings, but then you've got somebody who is an autopilot and has turned off this light, and it's like, okay, do I turn it back on or do I just have to leave it now, you know, like,
Well,
so
that's the dice roll, right? Yeah.
exactly, you know,
Yeah.
so I keep just sharing and doing that sort of stuff, and hope that, you know, like maybe he says like, hey,
And come around.
maybe mom does have something going here, you know?
Yeah, because you
Exactly.
can't force them. Again, you can't. It's the rice, right? You can't take it off the pot before it's before it's ready, right? You gotta let it do its thing, and it's figuring that out. If and the thing with kids is we don't have that, you know, that history of knowing with that kid what's gonna work. It's because it changes all the time.
Exactly. And also what their purpose is.
Absolutely.
You know, are they
Yeah.
here to be a harmonious being or a less
Exactly.
than harmonious being?
Yeah, and to be okay with that, and that's a tough part for parents, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool that you're, I did a fair amount of astral and out of body stuff when I was probably between the age of 15 and 20, I would say 2022, in that range. I did quite a bit of it. And that's some pretty fun. I did some past life regression and all that kind of stuff too. So yeah.
So I was dating this guy, and I was having a nap, and he was laying with me, but he wasn't sleeping, and he saw me in the hallway, and then he's like, wait, how are you in the hallway? And he looked down and he saw me, and then like his response woke me up. So he's like, wait, how are you just there and you're here? Like,
Cool.
yeah. So he's like, you know, like, I don't think this is gonna work out for us. And I'm like, seriously? Like, what? Like, okay, all right. So
You scared him.
yes, and it like it wasn't on purpose. Like,
No.
Well, I mean, you scared him that you know, he just couldn't vibrate
he
at
got
the same.
woke.
Yeah.
He got woke and fast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not used to this. My filters can't handle this.
that's funny.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so I get the whole vibrations and the, you know, the frequencies and stuff, because you really do have to, you know, like hold your vehicle or your conduit, you know, in high respect, you know, because like if you know, damage it and do all this stuff to it, then you're not going to be able to reach those frequencies and hear, you know, your guidance and stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
that's awesome.
Okay, so we're kind of getting to the end. Any other questions or comments? Some awesome conversation here. Maria, what do you think of Elvis? Come on.
When I think about all that, it's awesome. You know, Rose, you know that. It's awesome.
In the
Awesome.
conversation that we had, what would you take away from this?
Who's that question to?
The
Question? What?
Maria?
yes, Maria. Sorry.
You ask me a question. What? Can you can
In
you
this
repeat?
whole discussion, what is the one
Yes.
thing that you'll take away from this?
Besides Michael Jackson, you can't use that one.
No, that's not Michael Jackson. I want to say all that stuff, all that vibration comes from the heart. Even if it's pain or anger or anxiety, it's all the heart. Heart. But all the music and all the word is heart. Or heavy metal, or if it's classic, it's always heart. It's always light. This is for me today.
That's awesome.
And vibration also can come from the monks when they do the chanting. So when they chant, it's also a very powerful vibration of another kind.
Massive. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I recently you know, went into listening to the type you know, the Tibetan monks you know, I went into listening to their chanting.
Yeah.
Very
It's
good. As well.
massively powerful, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like instant vibrations
Yeah.
and whoo, gone.
Absolutely.
But as Maria said, everything has got to do with our heart.
Yeah.
So it's like the day when I asked the question, of course, our mind can direct us, but the heart enhances everything, enhances it, you know, tremendously. Because if we have the mind and we don't have the heart to to sort of enhance it, you will not feel the flavor. You will not be able to feel much at all. So the heart actually, you can travel to, as you say, you travel to the astral world. So I'm sure, I don't know how you travel to astral world. I haven't done that.
Mhm.
But is it through your heart or through your mind? I don't know. How do
It's
you travel?
both.
Yeah.
It's both. Like I just have to think it and I'm there.
So is
Like
it through the
it's
mind, more through the mind? Yeah.
it's more of a feeling. Like
Feeling.
it's a
Okay.
feeling. Like I can't explain it because it's just it's like you're connected to everything, and like, but you're able to control where it is you want to go to.
I mean, like, for example, you tell me, okay, I have the feeling that you are in the universe. I can feel that. Yes, I know. But I thought that you physically see yourself there. You say that
It's
your
not
boyfriend,
even, you don't
You
even
don't-
see yourself
You
there
don't really
because,
see yourself.
yeah, because seeing yourself there means that you're like
It's the
observing. No, you're
physical.
actually there. You
Ah,
feel
I
like
see.
you're there.
Yes.
And
It's like light. It's like light, like you just know it's there.
Okay, then I understand better. Okay.
Right.
and
Exactly.
you're actually seeing through your eyes. You're actually feeling through your body, and it
Then,
means
then,
there's
then
a,
I understand.
there's that feeling, that experience of it. And to do the astral travel, it does require some mind techniques
Discipline.
to get that process, but I mean, so it's kind of hard to kind of separate which one is which, because you need to release. There needs to be, there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to happen for that to work out.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
You got to train yourself to do it, for sure.
Yes.
The power of visualization.
It's beyond that. There's visualization components, but it's beyond that. It's hard to explain until you experience it, and the way you experience it is by doing it until you get the experience and go, oh wow, whoa. And then what happens, well, for me, what happened with the first time is you jump back out and you're back and you're back, what was that? And then you go back and you do it again, and
it really is, in my experience, is a big part of it for me was developing the ability to quiet your mind, so that because it's you're always thinking about this and this and this and this, and you're just like, no, I'm just going to quiet, I'm just going to relax, I'm just going to relax and just quiet my mind, and then you just kind of feel this and there you are.
My favorite is from like Joe Dispenza, where he's like, you're in the dark space, you're in deep space. Deep space, and you like literally you just feel like you're in just complete blackness, like just in space. Like that's like literally how it's kind of like that.
And that I can
start off.
That I can understand, and that I have experienced very often going into the universe. Yeah, but I was thinking some other external thing that you were
But you
talking
feel the
about.
deepness. Oh my God.
Feelings, but yeah, but I don't know whether what to learn.
Yeah, so it does, I mean, definitely visualization and tapping into the mind and stuff like that
And with the heart flowing there, yes.
Yeah, and those are elements to it. Those are the ingredients that you put into the rice to keep that metaphor going. We all have rice today.
Spices. Yeah.
Eat burrito.
So one day, Gary, you should do something whereby you are talking about the power of visualization and also
so there's synchronicity there. So I was just going to mention,
we all meet in the same place out there in the universe. You just tell us we meet there.
All our subconsciouses are all powwowing up there.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
we do actually have coming up episode 51 it's going to be called Enter the Trance Matrix, which is going to be about brain states and the conscious, unconscious, superconscious, and actually giving people a specific, it's a process I created called the Trance Matrix, where I give you a formula that you can create your own trance induction, and you can create as many as you want with this one formula that I teach. So that'll be episode
It's gonna be
50.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you there.
Yeah.
Is that next show?
We all make a date down the rabbit hole to the astral world on this particular time, and we visit each other there.
That'd be a great
Definitely
experiment for
can do
sure.
that.
That'd be a great experiment. Yeah.
That would be cool. Yeah.
I
Lovely.
think that would be more remote viewing though.
Yeah. There'd be more remote for sure. Yeah.
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 All right, everyone. Thanks for being
Okay.
here.
Bye, Maria.
Great-
Bye,
Awesome.
Josephine.
Great call again.
Bye, people.
Thank
Give me
you.
just
Gary.
See you all. Be well.
Thank you.
You have
All
a
right.
good
Take
day.
care.
thank you.